Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, Season 6 is approaching, and Season 6 is definitely lacking in content because Sunsweet obviously have no patch notes and no changes. However, that doesn't stop people from having fun. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to have fun in Diablo 2, and one of the best and honestly the most interesting ways to have fun in Diablo 2, in my opinion, is to play weird builds. And what do I mean by weird builds? Well, characters that don't quite conform to the meta, and but still work just fine, and are actually quite fun to play. I'm going to go over a list of weird characters, and well, I certainly don't have the time to show you every single build and every single option. There are definitely some weird builds out there that I don't necessarily have set up. However, I'm going to show you as many as I can today in quick succession and go over briefly how the characters work, and I will have to refer you back to some build guides if you're interested in actually playing them. But follow along with me today as we cover some of these weird and crazy builds that you can potentially play in Diablo II Resurrected Season 6. Now, first off on the list is one that I actually did last season, and I would highly recommend this build to just about anyone, and this is my Thor Barbarian. My Thor Barbarian is a character that is based around the idea of doing as much lightning damage as possible, spamming as many chain lightnings as possible, and dishing out lightning damage through the form of charms. And surprisingly, the build actually works really, really well. I was surprised to find out that not only does the build work exceptionally well versus just about everything in the game because of the massive amount of negative resistances, but the static field procs are actually absolutely amazing for taking down the HP of monsters well below what you would normally expect. The chain lightning being spammed actually works surprisingly well to dish out damage because of the massive amount of negative resistances that you have on the character. Essentially, the entire build revolves around this. You utilize double swing, which is your main attack, and you utilize 2 crescent moons, which gives you a massive negative 70% enemy lightning resistance. On top of this, you utilize a lightning Sunder Charm, and you utilize as many lightning damage small charms as you could possibly find, all helping you to increase your magic lightning damage. And this, in turn, gives you a very effective and very powerful character that can take out some of the most ridiculous lightning, fire, ice, cold. Doesn't really matter, honestly, because you pretty much just walk through most of the monsters. Let's go ahead and beef ourselves up a little bit here. Sometimes when I'm not playing a barbarian, I forget to use my, my buffs. But as you can see here, I just fought a relatively large pack of physical immune monsters with relative ease and absolutely just kind of walked through them like they weren't even there. And of course, as a barbarian, you also get the added benefit of being able to find item and all sorts of things. Here's a lightning spire, just as an example. Let's take this lightning spire out of existence. Absolutely love this character. Look at this. Physical immune monster. Gone from existence. No need to break immunities when you don't do physical damage, and when, well, you dish out mainly lightning damage, right? So essentially this character is a very fun build, and it could potentially be combined with the next build on my list, which is something that I've actually considered, is potentially running a Wolfhowl build. So this is another build on the list of weird builds that you could potentially make, and this is the Wolfhowl Barbarian. Now, basically, how this build works is you kind of forgo any points in the combat tree because, well, you can't use any of these abilities anyway while you're in wolf form. You also focus the majority of your points on the passive tree, which is perfectly fine. It's kind of the same way that I have this character set up already. And then you utilize mainly war cries to enhance your your beefliness. So you would use shout, battle orders, and battle command, as many points in there as you can. So you could take the 20 points that I have in double swing here, the 1, 2, 3, 4 points that I have. So we've got what, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 24 points here could be spread throughout here in the shout, battle orders, and battle command, or you could spread them into Iron Skin and Natural Resistance, whatever it is that your choice is. And basically, what you would do is you would play this same exact character. Nothing really changes. You could of course go with a Grief, or there's a bunch of other different options that you could potentially do. But let me give you just an idea of how this character runs. The Wolfhowl Barbarian is definitely interesting, but this is what? A Thor Wolfhowl Barbarian? Even more powerful than the regular Wolfhowl Barbarian? Let's see how this one works, because nothing really changes in the way that I set up the character, except for that I'm going to be using my Feral Rage instead. And we're going to grab our... Where's my Werewolf Farm? Werewolf Farm. Let's put that on F7 for right now. We're going to transform into our werewolf. And let's go out here into the wilds and let's just see how good we do murdering stuff. Now, of course, with this kind of build, with the Wolfhowl build, you do always want to make sure that you beef yourself up with your war cries before you transform into a wolf. And then once you're in the wolf form, you're just kind of stuck in the wolf form for the rest of the duration. But as you can see, my lightning barbarian works surprisingly well with... is very compatible with the Wolfhowl Barbarian. It's not bad at all. Actually quite like that. That's actually not bad at all. Just an additional layer of additional attack speed and another way to apply the damage so you can run around as a wolf. And you got the added benefit of not needing any physical damage reduction, like amplify damage or decrepify, because, well, you're not running physical damage, right? This is actually really neat. I like this. I like the additional move speed on this, yeah. And that's the second build on the list that you could potentially do. That's a weird build, combining, of course, my Thor build with this, or you could go your own route and you could make your own Wolfhowl Fury Visor druid, barbarian, depending on how you want to set it up. The next on the list is a very interesting one that I actually just did a build guide video for, so that should be up if you want to check that out. And this is the Hurricane Wolf. The Hurricane Wolf I named after one of the hurricanes. It's called Hurricane Gilbert. Hurricane Gilbert is a lesser-known terrible hurricane that happened a long time ago. And I just thought it was a funny name, so I named him Hurricane Gilbert. Hurricane Gilbert is based on the idea of procking tornadoes and twisters while you are in werewolf form, which is basically a really cool way to just get free damage. It utilizes the Storm Lash Scourge as well as the Windhammer Ogre Maul, depending on which route you want to go. And through the process of synergies, you're relying on the casting of the Tornado, the Twisters from the Carrion Wind, the Twisters from the Rain, the Tornado from the Storm Lash as well as the Static Field, and the Twisters from the Windhammer Ogre Maul, depending on which weapon you choose. And essentially what you do is you transform into a wolf. Once you're in your wolf form, you can utilize your Cyclone armor and your Hurricane, and you basically just get in there and start wailing away on targets. And you'll see that the Tornadoes and the Twisters are constantly proccing to dish out damage to the enemies that you're fighting. On top of that, you're also getting the damage from the Hurricane itself and other things. You basically just put all of your points, and to put this simply, you put all of your points into Hurricane, Tornado, Twister, and Cyclone armor to enhance the synergies of those effects. And then you one-point wonder basically the entire werewolf tree with 8 base points in Fury. This build is surprisingly fun to play. The micro stuns that come from the Twisters make it very safe because most of the monsters can't fight back because they're always getting stunned and interrupted. And you can build it either with the Windhammer Ogre Maul or the Stormlash Scourge. And the gear requirements aren't really all that ridiculous. Other than the Stormlash or the Ethereal Windhammer Ogre Maul, most of the equipment is relatively easy to come by, like Jalal's Rain, Gore Riders, Carrion Winds, which aren't even really all that amazing. +1 shapeshifting skillers is important here because you're not going to have a lot of extra points to put into the shapeshifting tree, so do keep that in mind. Next on the list is one that I've just created, and I'm actually going to have fun with this season. It's a two-handed Vengeance Paladin. I actually theory crafted this one the other day, and I plan to actually build this and play this during the season. This is a Paladin that's based around the idea of, well, what if I used like a really, really strong two-handed weapon with my Vengeance instead of one-handed, and then how can I protect myself while I'm, doing this? How can I protect myself? Well, I can't protect myself very easily. And so the general gist of the idea is that, well, to protect myself, I need to give myself as much leeway as possible in terms of combat. And to do that, I figured, you know what? How about conversion? Conversion would probably work pretty well. Then I threw in Thorns, and before you know it, I had myself a fun little character. So what I do is I usually convert 1 or 2 monsters to start out with, and then I use the confusion that's created to pick out pretty much every monster that I can. And as you can see here, I think this is on Players 8, by the way. So just to give you guys a good idea, this is on Players 8. You can see my damage output is pretty darn good for Players 8. The conversion works surprisingly well to help me essentially protect myself versus the monsters. And then on top of that, there's also the added benefit and the excitement of potentially accidentally killing yourself, which is really fun. Let me see if I can do this on camera for you guys. Why is he running around like a crackhead? Oh, I did not quite. I didn't really get a good solid hit there, so unfortunately I was unable to really smack myself in the face with my own damage. Which is exactly what you want. You want to smack yourself in the face with your own damage. Why not? Now, the whole entire goal behind this character, like I said, is to use conversion as a distraction so that you can get in there and dish out the damage that you need to dish out. Vengeance itself is a very hard-hitting ability, so it doesn't really need a lot of help in terms of damage output anyway. And as you can clearly see, I can dish out massive damage. Come on, kill myself, come on. And you can accidentally one-shot yourself. So there's an added level of excitement there to, not accidentally one-shot yourself like I just did. I recently released a video on this little thing that I just showed you, this ability to accidentally one-shot yourself. And if you guys haven't seen that video, I recommend you go check that out. I explain how the one-shotting yourself and one-shotting other players works and why it is so ridiculously effective. Yes, it's I'm going to be playing that all this season for Season 6. So do tune in for the shenanigans that result, because I'll probably end up killing some of my teammates. Next on the list is the Enchant Bow Sorceress. The Enchant Bow Sorceress is an absolutely amazingly fun character. Very, very much so a weird character to set up, but extremely easy, believe it or not. And I seem to be missing my crossbow. Where's my crossbow at? Okay. Let's see here. I have one online too named Spicy Arrows, so let's just grab Spicy Arrows instead. So Spicy Arrows is my one from a previous season, and basically all you really got to do for this build is you get yourself a demon machine. You get yourself some nice plus fire skillers. You get yourself fire damage charms if you can, like something like this, like flaming small charms. And you stack up as much fire damage as you can. You want to enchant yourself and build energy shield if you can. And then once you get everything set up, you get your damage set up, you can pretty much just walk outside of town and just annihilate stuff with your flaming bolts of death over here. Now, unfortunately, this character is missing quite a few pieces of equipment, but even missing quite a few pieces of equipment, you can clearly see she's absolutely annihilating stuff in hell difficulty, mind you. And it doesn't really take a genius to figure out that this character is kind of nuts. The amount of damage that she can put out is only limited by the number of monsters that she can hit. The more monsters that she can hit, the more damage that she can do. If you combine enough monsters down into a tight little area, she will dish out more damage than you could ever dream of. If you've never done a Demon Machine Sorceress, I would highly recommend it. It is a very, very fun build. It's very, very powerful. You get a very nice energy shield out of the mix. You can Life Leech and Mana Leech, which is something that Sorceresses can't often do. And on top of that, it's really not very expensive gear-wise. The Demon Machine Crossbow is extraordinarily easy to come by. And as far as the rest of the equipment, you need a Razor Tail Belt to cap off the piercing. And the rest of the equipment is really whatever you want, to be perfectly honest. You do want a Flickering Flame for the negative fire resistance if you can get it, but you could just as easily, use like a nice +3 fire skills circulate with fire facets or any other number of negative fire resistance items. This build is not only fun, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's extremely effective, believe it or not. The only thing you might struggle with this build, I think, is killing Ubers, but it's neither here nor there. Basically, for this build, though, you'd max out Warmth, you max out Enchant, and you max out Fire Mastery, and then you also want to grab Energy Shield, max out Telekinesis, put some more points into Static Field so it goes further, 1 point into Cold Mastery, 1 point into Frozen Armor, and usually that's pretty much all you need to do. As for the Mercenary, I actually double up on the enchant with her to make her be able to use the enchant effect as well, because I use Mist Bow on her, and the reason why I use Mist Bow is for the 100% Pierce. That way, she is also gaining my enchant damage. Not quite as much because she doesn't have Fire Mastery, but she's still getting the bulk of the enchant damage. And this means that her firing of Explosive Arrow is extremely powerful as well, and she can actually kill targets pretty effectively herself. Just kind of doubling up on the damage entirely so that she can dish out even more. Here's a bigger pack. Let's see if we can... let's see how she does against the bigger pack. As you can see here, absolutely demolishes with my enchant. And this isn't necessarily her demolishing, this is my enchant on her, adding to her exploding arrow, which of course does even more. There's a lot of fun ways that you could potentially run this build, and of course there's also an exploit that you can do that revolves around the girl always firing every single time that you teleport. It's some sort of quirk in the way that she works, so you basically just teleport around and she fires her shot every single time you teleport. You can play around with that as well for, the actual effect of her. Moving on to the next one. The next one is actually very, 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 very similar to what we're doing right now. It basically involves the same Demon Machine Crossbow. It involves the same effects. The only thing that changes here with this particular build is it goes to Holy Fire instead. Holy Fire is an ability that also applies large amounts of fire damage, and because Exploding Arrow just simply absorbs all fire damage of any type, Holy Fire's fire damage is also absorbed into the mix. And I'm not really going to do like a big whole thing on this. I don't really know if I even have one of those Paladins sitting around, actually. It's been a minute since I set up one of those, but it's really not much different than the current build that I'm running. It just involves running a Paladin and maxing out Holy Fire, maxing out the synergies for Holy Fire, using the same Demon Machine Crossbow, using the same Razor Tail Belt, and then maximizing for fire damage output. And as you fire, you're going to dish out massive amounts of damage. Holy Fire is going to add a massive amount to that effect, and utilizing negative fire resistance is highly effective here as well. I don't believe I have one of those in my single-player files, which is unfortunate. But trust me when I say that the Strider Paladin is extremely effective, and also the Strider Paladin can actually dish out more damage than the Enchant Sorceress. And here's why. It's a very special thing that a lot of people don't really know. If you're a Strider Paladin, you're getting your fire damage from Holy Fire. If you're an Enchant Sorceress, you're getting your fire damage from Enchant. However, the Enchant Sorceress cannot get as good damage from Holy Fire. It's not quite as useful for her. You could put a dragon armor on, but you can't put the dragon shield, and you can't really put Hand of Justice on either. So it's kind of meh. Hand of Justice also doesn't have Pierce on it either, I don't think. So basically, you're kind of stuck with just what you got, right? But the Paladin, on the other hand, can get enchanted. So if you happen to be in a group with an enchantress like this, and the enchantress enchants you as a Strider Paladin, your damage output will exceed the enchantress's by quite a large margin, because you're able to add your holy fire damage to her enchant damage while doing the same thing that she's doing, which is very, very powerful. The next one on the list is actually a really strange one that is actually very fun, and it was proven to be completely and utterly viable with the Bownemancer. The Bownemancer, I can't remember where my Bownemancer is. Let me pause it real quick. Oh, no, nope, there he is. Never mind. Found him real fast. The Bownemancer is an interesting character that's based around the brand bow. The brand bow allows you to get a pretty massive amount of procking, 100% chance to proc level 18 Bone Spirit. And basically how this works is you set up your character so that you can dish out as many Bone Spears as you possibly can. And I seem to have stripped this guy of equipment, unfortunately. That's very unfortunate. It's poor unfortunate soul. Well, he does have all his little max fine damage charms. Let's take him out anyway, because honestly, even with his current equipment, he's still more than powerful enough to do what we need to do. So let's just show him off real quick. If you want to actually see the full version of this video, though, I do have a video going over the Bownemancer, and I will link a lot of these things down in the description for you guys, so that you have them. And it looks like I'm using the old torch. Yeah, I'm using the old torch. Oh, let me take that off. As you can see, I get a large amount of Bone Spear procs. And basically how this build works is I'm utilizing... Will you get out of my face? I'm utilizing the synergies for the Bone Spear to dish out more damage that way. So I'm just getting more and more and more Bone Spears with more and more pierces. And this allows me to dish out more and more damage. I would suggest highly that you check out my original video for setting up the Bone Spear Necromancer, the Bownemancer, because I have a much better version of this video up, and that will be in the description as well. Another very interesting, fun build that you can potentially do is the Procazon. Now, the Procazon literally just uses all of the available items that can proc effects, like the brand bow, the Hellmouth gauntlets, like rings, amulets, all sorts of things. Anything that has a procking effect that activates on striking, you can get good use out of, like the brand bow, which has the Bone Spear on striking, the Delirium, the Hellmouth war gauntlets, Wisp projector, which I'm currently missing because I stole it and put it on my Barbarian. I know I stole it and put it on the Barbarian. Actually, I'm like 9,000% positive it's on the Barbarian. Even without it, it's going to be ridiculous. Let me go show you what this character looks like real quick. Ready? Oh no, out of arrows? Why can't, oh, I'm a dolly. Now the only thing about this is because I am using Delirium, I can sometimes accidentally turn into a doll, which is rather unfortunate. But that's only when you get, man, the chances of that actually happening, though. When you change between acts, it breaks the doll, by the way. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a taste of this Procazon. This isn't even really the full Procazon. She's missing her ring, and there are some other procking effects that you can add into the build here and there to make things even more interesting. I've been playing around with this character for a while. Oh yeah, I got my twisters. I forgot about my twisters. Those proc out all the time too. You can't really see them in. Let's go to Canyon. You can't really see them in the new game. I don't know why the twisters are so kind of like hard to see, but in the old game, they're much more apparent when you have the twisters proc, because the twisters are a little bit easier to see, I think, in the old game. Of course, my torch is completely messing with me too. I also got my meteors from the Hellmouth War Gauntlets. There's my little twisters. The twisters will stun things and help me stay alive in dangerous situations, which is really nice. As you can see, the character really doesn't have much trouble killing anything, and due to the ridiculous number of procs that the character has, bone spears, meteors, firestorms, twisters. I usually use wisp projector over here for like free lightnings. The confuse, the mind blast, when struck. The confuse is actually really handy on this character. The bone spear and so forth and so on. Like it's a really fun. Apparently, I'm wearing like regular heavy boots. I keep stripping all my characters so that I have every time I go to do something, I pull my items from one character and put them on another character, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt when I'm trying to show you guys stuff and all my items are missing, but it be what it be. The Procazon is definitely a fun character that is very functional, and honestly, I actually tested it. I can kill Ubers too. I actually did. I did Uber Diablo. I did not test it in Uber Tristram though. Next one on the list is actually one that I don't have a character for. It's the Whirlwind Assassin. The Whirlwind Assassin is one that I haven't actually built yet. It could be a fun one to do for maybe a new season. But basically how the Whirlwind Assassin works is you utilize the rune word Chaos so that you have a Chaos Claw. And it's very similar to the way that you might set up, for instance, a... Where are you at, Veg-O-Matic? A Blade Fury Assassin. Blade Fury Assassins utilize large amounts of plus damage and things like that to enhance their Blade Fury, Blade Sentinel, etc. So basically what you do here is you want to set up your character so that she's extremely tanky by utilizing weapon block. Whirlwind is not technically considered moving, and weapon block doesn't work while you're moving. But if you have maxed out weapon block while you are whirlwinding, well, since whirlwinding isn't technically moving, you have maxed out weapon block while you're moving. Which it doesn't make any sense, I know, but it works. On top of this, Blade Shield also attacks things as you go through them. So in general, with Blade Shield, what you're doing is you're utilizing maxed out Blade Shield to get free damage as you're whirlwinding through the targets, adding another layer to the character. And you can potentially use Blade Sentinel in the mix as well to fire off a couple Blade Sentinels before you start your whirlwind, so that the Blade Sentinels are also dishing out damage while you're doing your whirlwinding. It's actually a pretty fun little build, and I'm sure there's 100 build guides out there for the Whirlwind Assassin. Maybe I'll theory craft one of my own one days without looking at somebody else's build and cheating off somebody else's homework. But until then, it's definitely a fun little character that you can create in the world of Diablo 2. We have one left, and I saved the weirdest for the last, and that is the Valkazon. I did do a video on the Valkazon recently, and unfortunately she has been stripped of a lot of her equipment, so I don't really have everything I need for her anymore. She is rather interesting, though. It's basically a build that is all around the Valkyrie. You become the mercenary, and the Valkyrie becomes the main character to the show. And basically what you do is you get the Valkyrie as many levels as you possibly can, to the point where your Valkyrie is, you know, the queen of the show, so to speak. And once you have your Valkyrie maxed out, which mine is currently level 44, I could do better than that, you basically spend a little bit of time summoning her. Now, when you summon your Valkyrie, the thing about summoning your Valkyrie is you can tell what stats she has on her equipment by the color of her equipment. Notice how her spear is slightly iridescent blue. That means that she's utilizing a cold enchantment or cold damage on her weapon. Her armor is orange, which this attacker takes damage of. We don't want either of those. So we're going to continually resummon her until she's spawned with what the color of the equipment that we need. Now, the black spear is the cruel modifier, and she currently has a cruel modifier on her spear, which is a very good one, but her armor is not the right color. We were looking for red. Red is the best color for that. So once you get a black spear and red armor, black spear and red armor, you have one of the best effects that you can get for the Valkyrie. And then what you do is once you completely summon up your Valkyrie in her god mode, utilizing all the passive magic skillers that you can, which I have. Actually need to swap in a couple of these. I was pulling off some magic, passive and magics from some of my other characters, and I found that I had a bunch of really good ones, like 34 lifers and things like that, just floating around. Definitely way better than these junky ones that I had sitting on here. And what you also want to do is you usually want to keep a couple of these in reserve. Some really good ones sitting around. Or just some bland ones, so that when you summon your Valkyrie, you can get her even higher. So what you can do is, and what I like to do is, when I summon my Valkyrie, I will put my cube in my stash for the time being. I'll pull out a couple extra charms, just ones that I have sitting in here for extra points. Switch over to my good ones, and then of course I also grab my +3 and my +3 gloves, and now I have a level 47 Valkyrie that I can summon. And you support the Valkyrie in many different ways. Fanaticism aura, might aura, concentration, inner sight, whatever it is that you can do to support the Valkyrie to make her dish out more damage, you do. And what do you do in the process? Well, I have Lightning Fury from the Thunder T-God's Vigor belt, and I also have a free guided arrow granted to me by Mage Wrath, so I can swap back and forth between those two weapons to do various tasks. It's a very fun character because honestly the Valkyrie just kind of kicks butt on her own. She's a little slow, I'm not going to lie, but the damage that she outputs is more than sufficient to kill most targets. And when combined with a decent mercenary, which I don't have, by the way, because she's currently not set up with a faith bow, which would be the optimal, although also a mist bow might not be a bad choice, or you could just go with a might merc and run some other things. Grab like a bramble, throw some thorns on there so your Valkyrie has thorns. There's a lot of different ways that you can support the mercenary, support the Valkyrie and become the Valkyrie's mercenary, and it's actually pretty fun. You'd be surprised at how effective Lightning Fury is, even at a very low level. This is level 17 Lightning Fury unsynergized. As you can clearly see, it's still pretty effective. So basically what you're playing here is you're playing a character that is not set up with bow skills, not set up with javelin skills, and is basically pure passive. And because of this, you have surprisingly good defenses. You have level 29 dodge, avoid, and evade. You've got 47 critical strike, 47 penetrate. You got level 47 Valkyrie, a level 47 decoy, which you can use at your command, which is extremely tanky and is probably not going to die to anything, just like your Valkyrie's not going to die to anything. She could probably sit there and tank for like hours, to be perfectly honest. On top of that, you also have the ridiculously good Valkyrie that can literally tank everything for you as well. So not only do you have a ridiculously powerful decoy, but you have a ridiculously powerful Valkyrie that can basically just run around murdering everything. I mean, like I said, she's a little slow, but it's actually kind of a fun build, and if you support her properly, you're really not going to have much of an issue. The best way to do this is to attack the same target that she's attacking, so whatever she's attacking, you're attacking it too, dishing out your damage in combination with hers, and you can usually kill things surprisingly fast this way. Guided Arrow prevents you from needing any attack rating, because of course Guided Arrow always hits, and Lightning Fury doesn't need any attack rating either, because it's not really about the physical damage, it's about hitting the targets and getting lots of the lightning bolts shooting out, which happens regardless of whether you actually connect the shot or not. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos. I hope that Season 6 is fun for you guys. If you want to join me in the kinship and have some fun, we have around 25 people signed up already, and who knows how many more will sign up before ladder starts. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoy my content, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, keep watching.